Merging professional and consumer audio. It is a moment when consumer audio more and more is using elements from professional audio world. In this video, I would show you the similarities and differences between those two worlds to take the best from both and benefit from them in home audio applications. I would like to start this story with Edison's principles of creative thinking, with the goal to remove limits to look at a project, task or audio system from different angle. For many years, massive marketing is driving your perception about high-quality audio and seeded variations of crazy ideas, like speaker wires worth $2K USD per 6 meters. Thomas Edison is often cited as one of the foremost creative thinkers in history. These basic principles are adopted from Edison's writings. In his works, he described the majority of creative thinking principles, and I would remind you about them. The first principle is to question all assumptions. Don't accept that conventional wisdom without first examining and challenging it. It is a very important principle. Often we read some bold statements in the forums and start to refer to it. But you need a piece of evidence, an experiment, a trusted source, like manufacturer-provided evidences, calculations, blind tests, etc. The key question here is why? Traditionally, you are using fishing net to catch a fish in the sea. How about an alternative? We have our famous writer book about challenging old wisdom by this book hero. A lot of resistance by society to changes. This is why I'm so big fan of Elon Musk. He had no limits of thinking and challenges even such authority as NASA. Academic education sometimes limits our capability to see things differently. Acquiring a new person for a job, Edison made a simple test. He invited the candidate to lunch. If the person salted the soup before tasting it, assuming it would request a salt before testing the assumption, he didn't get a job. Generate as many ideas as possible. The more ideas you test, the more likely you will find one that works. When designing your products or audio system for your hobby, it is worth considering and studying many options. When designing Concorde, there was a problem that during landing, pilot was not able to see the airfield due to the long front part of the plane. There were several solutions, including a pilot's cabinet on the bottom of the fuselage. The final design is this characteristic downward pointed plane front part. Analyze your failures. If you are an engineer doing some creative design, most probably you will fail at the beginning. Failure is part of creativity. Even if you realize that your idea is not good, take some time to consider what you can take for it. Typically, there is a lot to take. There is an example of bubble plastic, what initially was developed for construction works for thermal insulation. It didn't work well, but today it's a perfect packaging material. Adapt other ideas. Edison often uses the invention and ideas of other people as mental springboard. In my practice, I often find out that after talking to other people, I find a couple of new ideas or directions on where to go with my business and designs. Socializing is an important part of creative thinking. For example, beauty shops are famous for their shop display. It is still the best in the world, but we can see that electronic industry took this experience and implemented in their shops. And there is an ultimate example where a phone shop transformed into a large shop display. Most of my ideas belonged to other people who never bothered to develop them. Record all your ideas. Your or your team idea can shine for a moment and then disappear. Write them down and come back later. It may happen that in the time being you will see and may apply differently. I can confirm that some of my ideas were implemented 5 years from the moment they first shined. Sometimes in working on a solution you are stuck. You can't move away from the existing pattern. There is one of the techniques, Brutething or random words. Choose a random words or any other random stimulus like photos or videos and think about its attributes. Write these attributes on a sheet of paper and your challenge. Your mind will automatically create connection between the words and your challenge. List ideas that come to the mind. Finding solution. There are several solution types and paths how to find and develop your solution. And the first one is evolution. This is a method of incremental improvement. The bicycle is a typical example of evolution. You can see how many variations we had before we come to this beauty. Amazing perfection. Synthesis. Two or more existing ideas are combined into a third new idea. Smartphone, camera, video, streaming, and by the way, we can also make and receive a call. So, types of solution: revolution, a radical changes from the previous idea. You throw away all assumption about how things are done and look from a blank sheet of paper. The good example is previous and current generation of television. Those have a radical differences in the way how signal has been presented. At some point, discussion about picture quality disappear, and mostly we are talking about screen sizes and services built in. Another example is audio amplifier, Class A, B and Class D audio amplifiers. Class D amplifier has a completely different operation principle. The latest models like IcePower 1200 AS2 achieved quality exceeding human hearing limits, meeting point that practically there is no place for further improvement. I was so impressed with this board quality that built a special amplifier kit for music lovers. You can find more information about it by clicking on the card on the screen or at the end of the video. Another example is music content sales model changes, from purchasing music to paying for streaming services. Apple CEO Steve Jobs pioneered this model. It was a revolution in the music industry. Reapplication. Look at some old ideas in a new way. We already discussed this example of a bubble plastic. Unsuccessful in the construction business and great success in the packaging industry. Changing direction, shifting from one angle of the problem to other. Have you read Mark Twain's book, The Adventure of Tom Sawyer? Of course, who didn't? There was an episode where Tom did misbehavior and he was punished by Aunt Polly for the day to paint the fence. Friends come to make jokes about him, but he was silently painting the fence and did not react to jokes. It was not a typical Thomas behavior. When friends asked could they also paint the fence for some time, Thomas said that the job demands responsibility and skills, and it is not for everyone. You know how this ends. Friends started to pay Thomas for a chance to paint the fence. At the end of the day, the fence was painted 3 times from both sides. Thomas became the richest boy in a town with a lot of valuable stuff, was worth mentioning a dead cat and 6 small glass balls. What Thomas did, he managed to change a paradigm from punishment to opportunity. And the last in the chapter about creative thinking is a SCAMPER, transforming methodology. There are 7 components. Substitute, person, product, time, place, situation. Combine 2 or more parts, processes in some way. Adapt, think about other existing products or processes that could be adapted for use as a solution. Modify, or completely change part or complete existing solution. Put to another use. Think on how a product or solution may be applied to solve a completely different problem or task. Eliminate part of the solution, raising its efficiency or making it cost-effective. Reverse. Think about scenarios where the process is reversed or changed in its sequence. So, altogether, it's called SCAMPER, Transformation Methodology. It is the last slide in a chapter of creative thinking. What I want you to remember from previously told. Remove your thinking boundaries and look at your music system holistically. Verify statements in the forums and learn from the professional world. The professional world is rational, educated, and experienced, and they are making music records that we are reproducing. Professional versus hi-fi consumer audio. I selected a couple of examples that were put side by side with similar consumer and professional equipment. Let's look at what we can learn from them. Active digital crossover. I took one finished unit from consumer world and the most expensive and best of the best digital three-way crossover from proven manufacturer DBX. DBX is a leading digital crossover manufacturer in the world. Look at the DriveRact Venue 360 specifications and functionalities, including RTA, real-time audio measurement, and remote setup from listening position using Android devices. Those devices are incomparable. DBX win in all aspects. The price is better due to the production scale. Another example from Hypex. They have a lineup for consumer and high-end market as well as for professional market. What do we see? One channel DI kit costs $6.99. At the same time, a professional stereo amplifier board with input filter, DSP, power supply, all connectors, and cooling solution costs $6.79. And remember, previous is mono solution and this is a stereo. Make it wall mount, add speaker cable, and you have ultimate stereo audio amplifier with active cooling. Consumer and professional solutions are sharing the same electronic architecture and design elements. The professional solution is twice cheaper than the consumer market addressing solution with similar quality. It may happen that the Pro version is even better when testing in a blind tests. That is Hypex's latest generation kit with incredible specifications. The community will refer to specifications and come with a bold statement that it is the best amplifier in the world. By specifications, yes, but make a blind test and compare with Encore 502, which is a fantastic engineering design example. That is what the assembled kit look like. There is no information about the price, but it would be similar to the previous kit version. When I studied the high-end Class D audio amplifier boards, my winner is IcePower 1200 Ace2. Better price, quadro balanced architecture, more functionalities, incredible sound quality, worldwide certification for integration in your design. I have a video where I'm looking to the board details. Want a better audio quality? We should address the right point of impact. And it is not the amplifier. We are already exceeding the human hearing limits, which means improvement will be inaudible. But there are areas where we can do a significant impact to sound quality. And the first one is getting rid of passive crossovers. Let's look at this concept in detail. Consumer speaker systems in majority of cases are passive. It is determined by the consumer who wants flexibility in choosing amplifiers and preamplifiers. An important role paid is split payment. If we purchase an active system, we should make a payment for the speaker system and electronics simultaneously. There is psychological barrier. Also, electronics and the speaker life cycles are different. Typically, speaker life cycle is 4 times longer than the electronic part. Conclusion: passive systems make sense. Passive system architecture. The audio source is an important part of great audio system. Amplifier, passive crossover, and speaker system. In the majority of cases, the crossover is built into the speaker cabinet. Unfortunately, this architecture has significant drawback, heavily impacting sound reproduction quality. Let us remember how we hear and how our hearing determines the stereo or direction of the sound source. Human can hear a phase difference in a bandwidth from 500 Hz to about 5 kHz. We are not able to determine the direction of low frequencies due to the too long wavelengths and too small phase difference. For high frequencies above 5 kHz, wavelength is too short to detect phase difference, and we are hearing mono signal. There is no soundstage at the high frequencies. Human is not able to hear the absolute phase of the audio source, only phase difference. I have read in a forums thread that Class D amplifiers are bad because it has LC filter in system output, which is impacting the signal phase. This argument is not valid. Signal will be impacted only when there is a significant difference in LC values. Look at the oscilloscope and evaluate phase difference when having dots. One statement is right. A good Class D amplifier needs a good output filter. Also, our capability to detect sound direction is limited by the surrounding created reflections. Our brain combines two signals with delay below 30 milliseconds into a single, louder perceived signal. When we hear a reflected signal as an echo, then the reflected signal time delay is larger than 30 milliseconds. For example, we can easily detect audio signal direction in an open area without reflections, but not able to detect sound source direction in a large cave where we can't tell where the person singing is located. We are not able to detect phase difference that has been smashed by reflected signals. Also, we have a phase difference or changes in loudspeaker itself. And you can see that they have frequency-dependent phase changes. For woofer, it's minor drawback. It is a different story about a mid-range speaker. For mid-range, we need similar characteristics of good manufacturer-produced speakers. We cannot mix manufacturer and speaker series. In three-way speaker system, mid-range role is important for a good soundstage. It is recommended to carefully select a mid-range driver. You can get excellent quality mid-range drivers from proven manufacturers in a price range from 59 to 100 euros in retail. All those artifacts are neglectable comparing passive crossover introduced with phase distortions. The passive crossover consists of many reactive high-power LC components. A small mismatch in nominal may cost a lot of soundstage. This is why good expensive crossover matters. And it is an expensive component demanding significant research and development time, as well as production culture and good components manufacturer. Sometimes even manual components nominal verification to achieve consistent speaker performance. In theory, each reactive passive crossover component at the filter cut frequency shifting phase by 90 degrees when having two reactive components. Then by 180 degrees. When crossover is precise, we don't hear phase distortions and enjoy perfect precise soundstage. For example, this crossover mid-range should be connected in reverse polarity compared to the tweeter and woofer. Band filter has twice as much reactive components. I used this filter in one of my projects, and when I tested and measured the speaker connection polarities, I should reverse this mid-range in opposite polarity. Here in the schematics there is mistake. There is so-called Linkwitz-Riley filter providing filter without phase distortions. All good active crossovers are developed based on Linkwitz-Riley filters. Two brilliant engineers' lifelong research discovered how important is phase characteristics in good audio system. Those are far more important than amplitude frequency characteristics. I'm recommending visit Linkwitz-Riley website and study their work to understand topic in details. How to avoid previously mentioned design challenges and move your existing audio system to the next level of reproduction quality. There is an answer. An active loudspeaker system. It consists of the audio source, active crossover with Linkwitz-Riley architecture, and band-related amplifier directly connected to the loudspeaker input. We will get the following benefits. Band filtering is done at a low volume, low current signal stage using precise op-amps and low power passive components. There is flexibility in choosing crossover frequency and matching loudspeaker sensitivities. Amplifier direct connection to the loudspeaker providing much better control over the speaker and rising efficiency about 30%. Drawback: you need 3 amplifiers. For home usage, for a 3-way system about 300 Watt for a woofer and 50 Watt for a mid-range and tweeter. You may build crossover and amplifier into the speaker box or place them separately and connect with the 3 speaker wires. I like a second version, which is giving more flexibility and makes the speaker system simple with the possibility of drivers upgrade. At some point your speaker system becomes far more carpenter project than electronic engineer project. Let's take 3-way stereo speaker system as an example. We have a source, preamplifier, audio interface or dedicated digital analog converter, active crossover, there are 2 channels, and 6 power amplifiers for a stereo. There is simplified active crossover schematics. One channel consists of buffer amplifier, then we have Linkwitz-Riley filter, and output stage with a volume regulator to match loudspeaker sensitivities. We get perfect crossover characteristics. Excellent. And now let's go back to consumer and professional board designs. There is a good example. You can see good consumer design. On the board you can see necessary controls. Input gain controller and 3 output level controls to match speaker sensitivity. From my side, no complaints to engineers. For a price of 65 USD per channel. This is professional device similar to previous example. It is a stereo 3-way analog signal crossover. But where is the difference? Look how easy is setup and controls. You have the flexibility to choose crossover frequencies, phase alignment between woofer and mid-range in case you have a subwoofer placed away from the tops. Reverse phase switch for precise measurement of phase alignment between drivers. It is much easier to see and hear signal cancellations and summing. The deepest cancellation indicates that you have optimum phase alignment between drivers at the crossover point. Of course, you need to use a test signal, but it's not a problem in the modern world. You can generate them using PC or phone apps. You also have a simple multiband limiter to avoid the system go to clipping, what may be dangerous to your speakers. And look at the price. For stereo systems the same as for a board, but this device is far better designed and the price is great due to the manufacturing scale. You can find this device worldwide. It has been produced in large quantities for many years, and the design has been optimized for a task. Do you need a digital version of this device for home usage? I would say that no. Modern speaker drivers are so good that you will not get any amplitude frequency problems. Your main challenge will be room placement with the highest impact to sound reproduction, driver balance and coloration. But you need a lot of XLR cables for connection. It may be very expensive. Really? Check professional equipment seller web shops. Those numbers are taken from publicly available pro equipment sellers. 8 connector solution, just 23 euros. Imagine what the price would be for the consumer market, minimum 100 euros. 6 pieces of the patch cables for 15 euros. Long microphone cable to connect your listening position to the speaker location. But how about amplifiers? I want the best of the best. There are a couple of configurations where I got fantastic results. IcePower 125 AS2. You have option to use them in a bridged and single-ended modes, separating the power supply for the woofer driver from the sensitive mid-range and tweeter power supply. For optimum usage you need a balanced preamplifier. I have tested, and with preamplifier the sound quality is much better. With a preamplifier you can use China offered 125 AS2 boards without sacrificing quality. There is an up-to-date option using IcePower 2nd generation boards. The key advantage is waking up from signal function, which is super handy because of the system automatically going to sleep mode after 18 minutes of inactivity and waking up from signal when you start to play. I have tested and it is working excellent. Also, those boards work from worldwide mains from 85 to 240 volts mains power. Rack mount advantage. The professional world has one fundamental advantage. It is standardized. When you are building your system, there are several cost-effective solutions how to assemble your system. Let's take a look what we can use for consumer applications. Wall mount rack system is almost perfect for stationary placement of your active speaker system electronics. You can also mount it in a small rack system, and your complete active crossover and 6 amps audio system will take less space than one Macintosh power amplifier. You can mount your design as simple flight case and make it mobile, benefiting from professional connectors advantages. For customer demos purposes, we built 2 demo systems. One uses cheap data and audio drivers, and second with more premium SB acoustics drivers. SB acoustics speaker system is true high-end speaker system with a premium Satori 9.5-inch woofer driver, SB12 MNRX25 mid-range woofer, and SB29 RDNC ring dome tweeter with neodymium magnet. This system is showing advantage of active architecture. With passive crossover it sounds very good, But in active architecture, the mid-range starts to shine. SB12MNRX25 is very precise driver. When passing bandpass passive crossover, response is a bit dampened, but connected directly to the amplifier and precisely controlled, it has excellent performance. Especially you can hear listening to piano music that is unforgiving to the smallest driver distortions or mismatch in responsiveness. Unbelievable tolerance in reproduction. Twitter has good reviews from professionals, and I also did not find anything to complain. This is how complete system looks. I assembled electronics in rack-type flight case. It has active cooling and a separate left-right power switch inside the box. I have 4 IcePower 125A62 boards with dedicated preamplifier board. The preamplifier is based on Texas Instruments in a 1650 chip and has true high-impedance balanced inputs. It is how it looks from the connector side. You can recognize that it is a prototype. Connection cable and amplifier part has band marks. And this is how whole system looks. Connection cables are 6 meters long. The speaker cabinet does not contain any electronics. Drivers are directly connected to 3 speaker and connector outputs. It is a perfect demo unit, what you can test variations of passive crossovers as well as active speaker solutions. If we broaden our fantasy with such architecture, we can purchase old high-end speaker in garage sales for sandwich price. You only need operational woofers. Replace mid-range and tweeters with the latest generation good manufacturers products. Remove passive crossover, make it active. Easy tune active crossover and enjoy music systems that would normally cost a fortune. In my system, as a base for a project, I have used Troll's Gravesen classic design. Just recalculated port lengths to 75 cross-section plastic water pipe and simplified internal reinforcement components of the enclosure. From acoustic theory, this design is better than the floor-standing version. I made wooden support on the wheels to experiment with the speaker placement. Such architecture reduces speaker vertical dimensions, weight, and eliminates resonance from the floor. When I'm doing demos, my customers are shocked at how good the 2K euro system can sound. It is including electronics. That's it about merging the professional and consumer worlds. And couple of things to remember. Creative thinking principles. The modern world is changing and dynamic. It is better to remove or eliminate our previous experience that is saying it is not possible or it's not right. Remember how do we hear and focus on the highest impact zone. Think, read and educate yourself about phase distortion and study Linkwitz-Riley materials. Think about active system optimum architecture. My vision is that we should separate electronics from speaker boxes, leaving space to play with the new solutions. Speakers and electronics are developing at a different speed. It is similar to photography, where the lens lifespan is 10 times to body. And finally, let's benefit from both worlds when developing your solutions.